Happening, folks. Kindly forgive my appearance. I got no sleep as a result of the 114-mile-per-hour bastardly winds that were battering my bedroom window all night. I thought about putting this off for a couple of days, but then I remembered my abusive Uncle algorithm never sleeps, so the show must go on. The Devil's Candy is a 2015 American horror film written and directed by Australia's Sean Byrne. I first became aware of his work back in 2009 with his directorial debut of The Loved Ones. Now, as you can see, for a horror, today's movie did really well with critics, but for some reason, it didn't do well at all with normal folks like you and I. Now, if you've been here before, you'll know I have all the respect in the world for other people's thoughts and opinions on any of the movies I review, and today's no different. I have all the respect in the world for the fact that these people clearly got this wrong. So today I am going to break this movie down into 3 acts, as I sometimes do, and hopefully by the end of the video I'll have convinced at least a few of you that I am actually right about this movie. It's not a competition, but I am right.
The movie opens with Ray, who's having trouble sleeping because the voice in his head won't let him. For copyright reasons, I can't risk playing the audio, but as the voice in Ray's head plays such a prominent role in this story, I spent a good bit of time isolating a clip to give you an idea of the devilish tone.
Like this video and subscribe to Johnny Recaps.
Don't get mad at me, I told you I'm sleep deprived.
As a coping mechanism, Ray faces his crucifix and drowns out the voice with a perfectly tuned B power chord on the not-so-subtle symbolism of his red Flying V guitar. And it works, but not for his mother, whom he's currently living with. When she tells him he's going back to the hospital, the voice tells him to Norman Bates her right down the stairs, which he does. And his father suffers a similar fate when he gets home later on. And then we meet the Hellman family. Jesse is the father, and he's a struggling artist. Astrid is his wife, and Zoe is their daughter. The family shares a unique closeness, and Zoe's even taken on her father's love of heavy metal. They find a big, beautiful home for sale at an unbelievable price, and I'm willing to bet you can guess why it's going so cheap. The real estate agent's obligated to reveal the couple's death in the house, but he romanticizes it with a big fat lie, so he doesn't miss out on that sweet 3.6% real estate commission. Meanwhile, the recently orphaned murderous Ray is holed up in a hotel room, trying his best to keep the voice in his head quiet. But not surprisingly, his guitar doesn't go over well with the hotel guests either. They decide to buy the house, and after they've settled into it, Jesse starts hearing a voice, just like Ray was.
Johnny Recaps is my favorite YouTube channel.
The voice inspires Jesse to do a spontaneous painting. It's far from his usual style, but it's very good, depending on your personal taste, of course. Then somebody rings the doorbell. And it's Ray. And when Zoe answers the door, Ray spots her fake Flying V tattoo, and that minute detail bonds the pair, unfortunately, in the worst imaginable way. Ray tries conveying the fact he needs to come home so he can play his guitar loud, but it comes across as gibberish. The family puts 2 and 2 together, realizing Ray's parents were the ones who died in the house, and the real estate agent's lie makes them feel sorry for him, but something about Ray's energy makes Jesse feel very uncomfortable, so he shuts the door on him, and in doing so, as I see it, he brings the first act to a close.
I love this first act. Director Sean Byrne has managed to do a hell of a lot in 25 short minutes, and he's done it without any unnecessary fluff.
He's created a compelling, believable atmosphere, and the pacing makes it feel like we're only 10 minutes into it.
But by far, and most importantly, as far as I am concerned for a horror movie, he has given us believable, interesting, likable characters. And more on that later.
The second act opens with a brief cameo from Leland Orser, who's playing a preacher on TV. Leland delivers a sermon about the devil doing his work through weak people. It's a tad on the nose, but if you have to throw hints at the audience, I definitely prefer this indirect approach over straight expository dialogue. When Jesse and Zoe head out for school the next morning, they find Ray's red Flying V left as a gift, along with an amplifier. And despite this feeling like a dream come true for Zoe, Jesse refuses refuses to let her accept the offering for obvious reasons. He tries comforting her by suggesting he'll get her one of her own for her birthday, but Zoe's face tells us she hasn't got a lot of faith in her dad's ability to gather that kind of money. And Jesse's face tells us his daughter's face broke his heart, probably because he knows she's right. In response, this sends him off to a snooty art gallery in hopes he can sell some of his recent work. Once they get a look at his newfound dark brush strokes, things start looking bright for his career. Back home, the voice encourages Jesse to get back to the canvas. And at that exact same time, Ray's out hunting down a different kind of offering.
Now, at this point in the story, Ray and Jesse become inextricably entwined because Jesse's paintings start to mirror Ray's unspeakable acts. And it's pretty frickin' cool.
By the time he's snapped out of his painting trance, Jesse realizes he's left Zoe at school alone for hours. When he gets there, they have an emotional back and forth, and the believable dialogue goes a long way towards demonstrating a very sincere, loving bond within this family. Meanwhile, on a contrary note, back in the hotel room, Ray is preparing the offering demanded by the voice in his head. Back on the canvas, without realizing he's done it, Jesse adds his own daughter to the imagery, which is now comprised of several children, all of whom are screaming, in pain, and on fire. After Ray's finished, he stuffs whatever's left into a suitcase and buries it, alongside several others he's buried there in the past. Then Jesse wakes from a nightmare about Zoe burning, so he goes out to destroy the painting, but the voice stops him and forces him to paint even more. And while he's lost in his sinister art, Ray causes a scene that'll keep you awake at night by sneaking into the house and right up into Zoe's bed. He begs her to keep quiet, and he tells her if she makes any noise, he is going to make him do terrible things to her, and that he doesn't want to do that. Zoe screams the house down at the first opportunity, and they get Ray out, but it's a terrifying scenario. As loving father, it destroys Jesse, and in the next scene, as he's standing vigilant in the middle of the night, on guard at his window with an axe, director Sean Byrne lays the symbolism on pretty thick. The enemy makes itself known to Jesse as a black goat strolling through the field outside his house. Next day, Zoe insists on going to school because she feels like she'll be safer there, and that makes Jesse feel even worse. And he carries those heavy feelings into his first meeting with his prospective new art agent. And the art agent notices. On his way to pick Zoe up from school that same day, his tire explodes, so he runs the rest of the way, and when he gets there, Zoe's gone. When Zoe wakes up, she's on the bathroom floor in Ray's hotel room, right next to her very own suitcase. After a heroic kicking and punching session, she gets out the window just in time and makes it to the police station to reunite with her parents and bring this second act to a very tense close.
A great second act has to develop and deepen anything relevant from the first act, and I'm going to suggest that is exactly what's happened here.
Now that Jesse and his family's moved in, Sean Byrne's not just taken away the security that's meant to come with a family home, he's taken it away from the most vulnerable member of the family. A parent being unable to guarantee their own child's safety at home is a horrifying prospect for the child and for the parents. Families moving into a new home only to end up in less than ideal circumstances are far from new in horror, but grounding it completely in the family dynamic adds a layer of immediate intensity. Also, all three of the likable characters introduced to us in the first act continue to perform and react in a very relatable and believable way.
But to me, the actual dark driving force behind this second act has been Ray, played to perfection by Pruitt Taylor Vince.
Pruitt's an American actor well known for a medical condition affecting his eyes known as nystagmus. Rather than allowing the condition to limit him, he's used it to convey a very unique practical on-camera effect. And along with his dialed-in acting, he brings a real sense of unpredictable psychopathy to the Ray character, so much so that we feel it in the audience, even when he's not on screen. The police explain Ray's history. He's known to them for trying to do similar things when he was younger, but he's never done anything to get himself caught before. So they assign a pair of police officers to the house while the family is gathering their things to move on to a safe location. But Ray's got other plans, and the police are taken out with his car and a devastating blow with a big rock. He breaks into the house with a gun from the police and plugs Jesse in the back. He tries taking out Astrid a moment later like it's nothing more than an afterthought. If you have children, this 30-second scene is a very challenging tension to get through unaffected. but he's run out of bullets. Then he drags Zoe upstairs with a full can of gas and a lighter and blocks the stairway with an impassable wall of flames. Ray's plan is to burn both of them so he can't get to her or punish him for not delivering her. But Jesse's woken by the dreams he's been having about Zoe, which we now understand to have been premonitions of what's happening upstairs right now. He brings Astrid outside to safety and climbs up onto the roof so he can break in through the window. And after an epic struggle, Jesse brings the battle to a fitting symbolic close by beating Ray to death with his own flying V guitar. After carrying Zoe to her mother outside, the voice Jesse's been hearing returns, and it guides him into the field behind the house where he discovers all the suitcases Ray's been burying. That discovery tells us the voice guiding Jesse throughout this story was actually very different to the one guiding Ray. Finishing a movie with a strong third act is a pretty simple thing for filmmakers. Conceptually speaking, of course. First and foremost, you need to resolve any of the central conflicts established in the first two acts. That means tying up any loose ends and making sure whatever challenges our protagonists faced, they've dealt with them in a way that reveals their character while providing the audience with an emotional payoff. Jesse struggled with his role as a provider and a father long before anybody knocked on his door. That was his inner struggle in this story. His outer struggle obviously appeared in the form of Ray, who was dead set on sacrificing his daughter. This third act saw Jesse bring an end to Ray and his dark little mission while finding the peace within himself after the realization he'd brought a deeper peace to all of Ray's young victims. Also, this movie's soundtrack is fast and hard and heavy. The pacing doesn't allow a single interaction to slow things down, and coming in under 120 minutes runtime, the thick, ominous tone from the opening scene never gets a chance to dissolve. Every performance was spot on, and the characters feel like people we all know in real life. Canadian actress Kira Glasgow was phenomenal in her portrayal of Zoe, especially given she was 13 at the time of filming. Ethan Embry's portrayal of Jesse perfectly balanced fatherly love with the natural uncertainty even the best of fathers inevitably deal with when raising a young daughter. As a YouTuber, you're meant to remove any repetition when you're writing these scripts, but I am happy to repeat, Pruitt Taylor Vince has an unrivaled knack for playing somebody so disturbed and void of emotion, he didn't even look like he understood what was happening to him in his final moments. This cast and the writing work perfectly together to make this a fantastic little dark horse of a horror movie. And regarding the actual ending, how do you beat that in terms of emotional payoff for us in the audience? So, should you watch The Devil's Candy if you haven't seen it already? Or should you just stop answering the door to strangers to be on the safe side?
Have you not been listening to anything I thought I was the sleep deprived. Yes, of course. If you've already seen The Devil's Candy, as usual, I would love to hear your thoughts on it down in the comments section. If you got nothing to do for the next 10 to 15 minutes, there's another video right there. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'm going to bed now, and until next time, folks.